how you doing? Welcome to Comic Book Team Up. That's where RJ from the Fourth Age, myself, get a third person to help us do some comic book. How was that for a real stumbling opening? But anyway, welcome Pete Cimetti to the show where the host can't speak. How's that?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Thank you for coming, Pete.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks you for the chat. We got Zartan says, has a blessed day. It's a very blessed day. My wife made me breakfast for dinner, which is awesome. I think everybody loves that. Comic Book Radio's in the chat. That looks familiar. And Blast Beat Industries. How you doing? Pale Heat. Oh, okay, sure. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Love seeing the wall of long boxes behind you. That makes makes me feel like we're kindred spirits.
If they had letters on them, I'd be like Vanna White. I just have to tap it.
Oh, there you go. Put LEDs and letters on them. There you go. And good to see you too, RJ. How's everything?
Everything's great. And you just reminded me because I'm honest, Pete, my brother just visited me a couple of weeks ago and he did that to my boxes. He said, "How do you find anything? I'm going to make sure these are all lettered."
He drew letters on your boxes?
Yeah, I did.
See, that would drive me crazy because I'm constantly adding stuff and then taking the comics out, put them in the next box. So, you know what I mean?
Once I got some time, I'm going to double stick tape some poster stuff on here and cut them out and whatnot. But that's a project for a day. Right now, I just got little initials and stuff written so I could find what I got to find. These are all Alterna books. So,
oh, cool.
I got my other comic collection stuff to the right of me. That's not Alterna.
I got them all on my shelf, and I could just look through the little handhole. Okay, that I recognize that cover. That's Avengers. So this is AV, so on and so forth. But we all have a little. Oh, okay. Now I got to ask, Pete, RJ. Say you have Amazing Spider-Man. Is that under A or is that under S?
A.
Yeah, I'd put under A.
Okay, so I'm the outlier over here. So all the Spider-Mans go under Spider-Man, and then the adjective. So it's Spider-Man.
I could see that though.
And then because I want all the characters there. I got Superman, and then Action Comics, Superman, Man of Steel, Superman, World of Tomorrow, whatever. There we go. We got your fan. King Krypton is great. Really well done. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I love King Krypton.
Thank you, Fritzy. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I think I did a
more on the way.
On issue number 1. Yeah. I really like. So let's go right into that. You have a campaign going out right now, right?
Yeah. Alterna's got a campaign going on right now for 4 new comics for $9. So you can't beat that.
No. It is the greatest deal in comic book history going on right now. I remember I had a crisis of conscience when I was like comic books are getting too expensive. I can't afford them. And then Pete good night, everybody. And then Pete Cimetti comes in and proves me wrong. I almost called you Pete Krypton.
That's fine too. I accept that. That's okay by me.
Yeah, unbelievable that you're making comics. It just blows all the arguments out of the water,
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand the arguments, but at the same time, I think a lot of the arguing in terms of at least paper stock. I don't think people are aware of newsprint still being an option, and that even when it becomes an option, I don't think people are aware either of the pros and cons of it in terms of when you get into printing on newsprint, you got to print certain quantities to make it economically viable. Otherwise, you can't go in there and print like 500 copies on newsprint thinking it's going to be cheap. It's going to be expensive at that point. But if you can kind of do a gang run, or you've got a big print run, maybe 2,000 to 5,000 copies minimum, then it's going to be pretty affordable. So the print kind of thing, I think over the years, in terms of that being used as an argument to justify cover price increase, that's one of the smaller costs of creating a comic, is when you take it to print. So the reason, if not the biggest reason, we can put the books like that is because, honestly, just bluntly, the creators at Alterna go, well, let's put the book for as affordable as we can make it. We'll get more readers on board, and more people can discover that stuff, and we can do. And I've encouraged this over the years too, because it's creator owned at Alterna 100%. And then they can have readers on their books that don't really think twice about giving their books a shot. Then they'll
Yeah.
discover that they're great,
I'm
and
living
then
proof of that, Pete.
hopefully those creators can maximize the opportunity of being creator owned and make merchandise and all kinds of other great stuff, and then build up their brand, build up their books and their characters. Some creators have done that over the years. Most have not, which is unfortunate, because I don't know why you go creator owned if you're not going to utilize that effectively. But that really helps. But in the indie and mainstream kind of realm, when it comes to these comics and printing and using that as a justification of like, oh, look, we got better paper stock, so we'll increase the price. That's a nominal difference in terms of when you're talking about, especially the mainstream, like the bigger companies, the amount that they print. I mean, they'll save probably like 30% maybe, switch into newsprint.
That's
But
a big deal.
then it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a lot of other things they're doing that they
Well,
could be.
They can crap comics. That's the number one.
Yeah, that the print cost
They can print
situation
on
and
free
all of
gold,
that.
It's crap.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things going on within the industry, within certain aspects of it. But yeah, it's newsprint it's the most affordable paper stock there is to print on without it turning into absolute garbage. Like you're not going to print on like a napkin.
I've been making no bones about
One
it.
step above is newsprint.
But your comics are my favorite printed quality. I'm talking the feel, the look, the smell.
That's the thing.
Presentation.
Yeah, is a lot of people I think they've become kind of so used to the publisher propaganda over the years about how bad newsprint is, that even though it is affordable, it's a very economic paper stock, but it's still great, and it brings something to the art. There's a warmth in the tone of the art. The colors absorb differently. The paper feels differently, of course. There's a tactile experience behind it. The book smells differently too.
Yep.
But it's one of those things that it brings something to the whole aspect of reading the comic that a lot of these other like glossier, flashier, more quote unquote premium paper stocks, they just don't really bring in the same respect. And it's a shame that the industry has mostly and largely turned its back on newsprint. Most of the greatest comics, if not, some would say, all of the greatest comics ever
the greatest are on
were
newsprint.
printed on newsprint.
Yep. Well, I like what you said about the smell of comics. I dated a girl in college out in Albuquerque, and she had a comic book store. And when you went into the back room, I say naked comics because they weren't bagged or boarded, but she had stacks and stacks and stacks of comics. You know how it is when you own a comic book store. And we both went back to, and we didn't time this right. We just went back there, and we both just like lifted our head back and smelled the comics. And then we caught each other. And, I was like, comic fan, that's it. I love that smell. And speaking of smells, how's RJ? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I got a technical question for you, Peter. Just since you're talking about newsprint here. So this is purely for my own, well, maybe somebody else is interested as well, but I was thinking of submitting a small story it came out on a Wednesday. I'm just having a little trouble with one of my artists right now. But the question is, I know that when they used to print on newsprint for like Marvel and DC, they had to use coloring techniques that would take into account the yellow of the paper for newsprint. So when you have people submit stuff to be printed on newsprint, do you give them any advice about what kind of colors to use?
Well, so the newsprint, I'll show one of the Alterna books right here. The newsprint, even back then, didn't start off yellowed. There was always kind of a off-white-ishness to it, but over time, the acidity of the inks combined with just the paper deteriorating in and of itself yellows the paper. But a new copy, it's like the paper's white. So you don't have to account for any of that. And that kind of thing gets adjusted on our end in terms of leveling out the colors. The biggest ask that we have is that you put the lettering on a separate layer. because we have to make sure that the lettering, especially the black lettering, is one color, just black. A lot of the time, letterers will put a 4-color black, that kind of a thing. So what happens when it's printing on a web press, it goes so fast. So if you have these misregistrations, and you'll see them a lot of the time on older comics, and not so much on the lettering, but on the art itself, where you'll have these nice things where we've grown accustomed to them as comic readers, but it would be impossible to read if you did it this way and you had the 4 colors in the lettering, because you'd have like a skew slightly off, like a blue, the cyan, magenta, yellow layer, that kind of a thing. So it would look off. So for us to kind of prepare the page, the file correctly, we want the lettering on one layer and the art on another. But that's it. There's nothing else that needs to be done to it. It's not like it used to be with the color separations and things like that in terms of newsprint. A lot of this stuff is done now with like Photoshop, InDesign. People can do all these kinds of things. So it's not as difficult as it used to be. But that's why there's something now in terms of when you see old newsprint comics and they're remastered, or especially when they're put on digital.
They don't look right.
Man, they're horrible. They're not taking into account that the color saturation doesn't need to be as amped. And sometimes I think they're honestly going in there and they're tweaking the color files as well.
I'm so glad you're saying this, because I'll get I'll read a buddy's Fantastic Four of the Jack Kirby stuff. And the only way I could describe it, because I'm new to this, I don't have the language, but it looks artificial. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, it's garish. It's
right.
really bad.
Yeah,
it's it's oversaturated, and then it's the jarring white on the digital page of it. It doesn't do the art justice, and so much so that now with our digital comics at Alterna, I put a newsprint layer over it, and then we put out our digital comics. So when someone now purchases a digital comic at Alterna, I think for the past year or so, the digital releases have been this way. It'll look like you're actually having a digital scan of the comic on newsprint, as opposed to the file that gets sent to the printer and then gets put to newsprint. So we even put preview pages up on the site, up on even the campaign that's up right now. You can kind of see this newsprint looking preview page, as opposed to that jarring type of, but even when we send, because that's the thing, is there's no way that they're using the files or the colors that were then sent to print and then they print on newsprint, because they would print just as garish, if not in some ways almost more so, because newsprint really absorbs ink. So when it's really this high intensity saturation of ink, what happens with newsprint is it'll either offset to the other page that it's sitting right next to on top of, or it'll bleed through.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So yeah, so you have to make sure that your total ink coverage, and this is getting really print nerdy with it, but you have to make sure your total ink coverage is usually around 200 to 220. 230 tops. And what I mean by that is there's 100% of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. You could do up to 400 on your total ink coverage. Very few paper stocks can handle the 400 without it becoming a smear fest. They can't really absorb that much ink. It gets incredibly saturated. If you do it, it's very sparingly with certain parts here or there to make a really, really deep black color. But other than that, if you keep your total ink coverage low, if you keep your separations with the black color when it's just a black lettering or anything like that, you keep it to 100% black and no other colors within it. Keep the amount of black that you're using within art to maybe 10 to 15%. Mix your shades and things like that. Keep in mind, be a little mindful of that, where you don't want to just darken colors by just putting more black in it. You want to actually be more knowledgeable and about what you're doing with color mixture, but you don't have to go too crazy with it, because we go in there, we've got a color profile setting, we adjust everything automatically, and then the colors print as they should, with very little tweaking done on our end. So the colorists don't have to go too nuts. But the one rule that I would say with newsprint that honestly should be followed with everything when you're doing this with comic books is really try to avoid constant use of gradients and be aware of color theory in terms of what colors when they go together.
Oh,
100%
what's
agree.
going to make things
100%
pop.
agree.
Yeah, if you watch my Sunday comics, I'll take out an old comic, and
Yeah, and
without
that's
even
for
realizing,
everything.
I talk about the color theory, how they have to separate, even though they're standing in the desert and logically everything should be colored gray, or not gray, tan. They don't do it. Sometimes the sky is yellow. Why is the sky yellow? Because it'll just become a melange, a mess of all these colors. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Pete.
Yeah. I mean, using color in general in comics to punch up the mood of a scene is so important, and it's a kind of a lost art. Everything is colored so literal now, and it's such a disservice. It creates just one big messy, like
Well, you
you
remember
can't
reading
track
the old,
anything. It doesn't pop. You know.
reading the old Avengers, and then everybody in the background was purple. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, and they fade into the background.
Yeah, they weren't
Purplish,
important.
bluish. Sometimes they're all that kind of color to let whatever the focal point is stand out and pop. And I mean that's just a good rule of thumb for any kind of art. You always want to make sure you're making your composition so that whatever the focal point is stands out. Whatever you're supposed to pay attention to, you pay attention to it. Now it doesn't mean you have to have characters existing in an empty void with no background or anything else. But as far as the detail and everything else, there's a hierarchy to it. And it's gotten lost a lot when it comes to modern comics because the more premium type paper stocks could handle more ink coverage. So it became this like, okay, well now we can just color everything and do all of this stuff and really saturate the backgrounds and get in there, but you lose something with the storytelling.
Definitely. I was doing basically a study of John Buscema's Conan the Barbarian before I started to do my Crom the Destroyer campaign. And I found that what he usually does, or what he did with his colorists at that time back in the 70s, was he would, or the colorist would, ensure that there's one panel usually on every page that has a red background. And it's to draw out the action for that panel in order to draw your eye to the action of it. And it's something you would never actually think of unless you sat down and studied it and were someone who was deeply entrenched in how color works and the way the mind moves in this sequential
Yeah.
art with color. It's beautiful.
Lots of psychology behind the use of color, and being aware of that and playing that up within your comic, it's vital to your storytelling. I mean, now if you're doing a black and white comic, there's other techniques you can use too. But in terms of color, that's a big weapon to just leave on the table and go, I'm not really going to use color effectively to play up the psychology of a scene.
I think I even brought that up when I did a showcase of King Cryptid #1. There was a scene of the warehouse, and I talked. I think I spent a long time just on that one page, and I was saying this is something a rookie or a less talented person, they would have filled up this warehouse with Kirby and Perez technology, that. And I like that you had Spares technology to show you almost like how utilitarian the people were. I said, but look at the colors over here. It's gray over here. It's dark over here. It's all like earthy tones to like set like a mood of like almost alienness. And I really dug it. Yeah, I gushed over King. I was about to say King Crimson. I also like King Crimson, but I was gushing over them too.
That's his good buddy.
I can't talk tonight. I'm sorry. RJ, go ahead. Take over.
I just talk about color theory for the next hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I just know that when you say hi, Pete, that's all you really need to say, and he'll drop some information on you.
I'll take that as a compliment for now.
It was meant as a compliment, as awkwardly as it came out of my mouth. Hey, I wanted to ask, do you do all your filming by yourself? Is it just you? Do you have any robots or slaves or anything?
It's just me, myself, and I. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the one packing up everything, sorting it all, And I like that. I like the ability to do that. When we had everything shipping with Diamond, it was nerve-wracking and heartbreaking to see customers and retailers getting books, and they'd be destroyed. And it'd just be like you feel helpless. You'd think like the fulfillment company, which would be the distributor at that point, would go, this comic is crumpled to all high hell. Maybe we don't send that out. And in cases, sometimes that wasn't what happened. So in this respect, I got no one to blame. So if something goes wrong, if something's not packed right, if something's missing, whatever it may be, it's me. But knowing that it's me, I'm able to course correct, and I'm able to go, okay, can you send me a picture? And I don't do this to grill someone about not believing them. I ask them to send me a picture sometimes, and this rarely happens. But if the box is really damaged, if there's damages to the books, I want to see, how is this packed? How did I pack that? And this way I know, okay, don't do that in the future.
Right.
So before I used to just put books in.
Oh, when you ship it. Oh, all right. I missed.
Yeah, like when I ship it.
Yeah.
So before I used to put books in like just a plastic bag with maybe like a backing board and just kind of a tightly thing, and then put like the packing material. And every now and then we'd have damages come through. Not all the time, but maybe like 1 out of 100 shipped out. But then I was like, you know what? Maybe if I'll put them inside of a bubble wrap envelope type thing, a bubble mailer, and then put the packing material and everything else, maybe that'll help. And it's helped a lot. Maybe now 1 out of every 5 or 600 boxes instead. And someone's really got to go to town on it, like one of those Ace Ventura looking packages where they're destroyed.
I've been packing your stuff for a while now. I've never had a problem. Everything comes out pristine. If your comics get damaged, it's because of me taking them out of the.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'll reuse Geminis totally. What am I gonna do? Throw those out? Those are gold. So if I get those in from someone that I'm backing, I'll reuse that as long as it's able to be reused.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, other than that, I use predominantly boxes, stay flat mailers, bubble mailers, and that kind of a stuff, and just kind of a combination of it, and then ship stuff out. But now, I mean, I'm always shocked when stuff at this point gets damaged, because I'm like, wow, they really hate us to do that, because I'm packing stuff up that sometimes it's like a box in a box. So when things ever get damaged, I'm always like, wow, what happened there? But yeah, playing soccer with it at the post office or frisbee or something, I don't know. But yeah, so I love seeing keeping the quality control. I love that aspect of it, being able to do fulfillment on my own. And then this way I know that if there's something that goes wrong, I can take ownership for that and not make that mistake the next time around.
How long does it take you to fulfill an entire campaign?
On average, our campaigns are between like 400 to 500 backers. So I'd say that it usually takes maybe like 3 weeks. Sometimes it might take a month, depending on the complexity of the campaign. If we were shipping, like if it was a campaign that was more akin to an average crowdfunding campaign and we only had maybe like 10 or so items to ship, man, I'd probably be done in a week. But we have usually between the Alterna store, which has about 400 items to choose from, and then the Indiegogo campaigns, this one's got more than ever before. We've got the whole extensive list of back issues on this campaign as add-ons. There's usually roughly 100 on this one. I think we have almost 200 items to choose from, and I think on average there's probably about 8 to 15 or 16 items per order. So it takes a little more time because of that. But if we had if I had to just do 1 or 2 books per thing and it was mostly just doing Gemini mailers, man, I'd crank out that campaign in a week.
Yeah. RJ, do you fulfill your campaigns yourself?
I've only done the one so far, and yes, I did. The other one that's about to be shipped out in the next month, I'm going to be doing it myself. I think it's going to be a little bit easier because the first one was about 900 copies, whereas this one's only about 400, so shouldn't be too bad.
Okay. Yeah. And RJ lives out in the wilds of the woods. He has to get on his donkey and bring everything down to the post office.
I actually, yeah. Probably 10 at a time.
You're like Juan Valdez, but with comics in tow.
Yeah. Johnny Appleseed with comics.
Yeah. He's coming out of the woods, kind of like, Gilbert Grape's mom when there's a Gilbert Grape mom sighting. Here comes that RJ fella. He's coming out of the
Oh
woods.
boy.
So I don't know. It's no secret that I'm going to be launching a campaign soon. So I enjoy talking to the guys who have successful campaigns. And Pete, you've been doing this for a while now. You're like a well-oiled machine. Again, like people in the chat are even saying your comics come perfect.
I'm glad to hear that.
And for, like I always say, the printing is perfect. The quality speaks for itself. I wouldn't be getting every alternate comic if I didn't enjoy them all. So like but a week of what? Like you wake up every day, pack tape, pack tape off to the post office.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just about, especially it depends on if it's fulfillment time or if it's just the regular average day. If it's the regular average day, I probably spend maybe an hour, 2 hours tops with packing up orders from the previous day or days.
Oh, you talk about regular orders?
Yeah, just like regular day to day. If it's fulfillment time, then it's like a 12-hour day for weeks of packing and bringing stuff over and all of that. But I'm really lucky and fortunate in the respect that our local post office is fantastic. So they're super friendly, helpful. We've had problems in the past with some shipments getting lost or whatever, and they've made sure to contact post offices for us and get me actual information about what happened with the package, and like they've been great. So I've not had that experience with many post offices in my life, but the one that we've got, man, I'm holding on to them like grim death because they're amazing. I feel like they're almost like part of the company in some weird way because they're so helpful.
I meant to ask Pete. I know that when the last alternative stuff I picked up, you had the listing of all the stores. I think it was in North America that would have alternative comics. Do you ship anywhere besides North America?
Oh yeah, no, we ship across the world. Yeah, we ship across the world. I've shipped to India. I've shipped to Japan. I've shipped to Australia. We've got a bunch of customers in Australia, UK, a ton of them as well. I've tried to ship things to Brazil. Brazil's really difficult. Mexico as well, pretty difficult to get stuff there. It's always like fingers crossed. I hope it got there.
I don't think Renzo got the comics that I sent to Mexico.
I told you, man. Yeah, that was like it's a crapshoot. You might as well, you might want to just get them digital. But yeah, it's difficult. There's a lot of different things that go on within those countries that make it difficult to send stuff. But yeah, we ship all over the world. And so what we have is a flat rate of shipping. So if you order in the US, it's $6 no matter how much you order. You could order all 400 items on the site. I'm going to need multiple boxes.
Take them up on that order.
I'm going to need multiple boxes to ship it out to you, but you'll just pay $6 in shipping. And then we have $25 for Canada, and then we've got $40 for the rest of the world. I remember a time when it was like 10 or 12 for Canada, and then like 25 for the rest of the world. But so I don't mind if someone orders, like, let's say, I don't know, 100 books. We've had this happen before. Someone ordered 100 books to the UK, and I think I ended up paying like 20 out of pocket. But compared to the 65% that distribution used to take from us, it wasn't that big of a deal, just to get someone our books that maybe wouldn't be able to get them otherwise. And instead of them paying like 65 or something like that in shipping, they paid the 40 and they got over 100 issues of Alterna. That's great. So, that's what we do. So it's the same thing too on the Indiegogo campaign.
Everybody team up in order.
Yeah. Do it now, right now, alternacomics.com. And if you want to go to the new crowdfunding campaign, we're doing that on both the Alterna site and on Indiegogo. And you can go to alternacomics.com/funding, or you can go to alternacomics.com/pre-order. The pre-order pages, you're going to see everything that's available for pre-order. So you're going to see stuff like the King Cryptid campaign, as well as what we have currently going on with these new books. And for the first 30 days, we've got premium advertising spots. Those are 20% off. They're going to go up in February 21st, something like that. So they'll go up back to normal. But back cover is $80 right now, and inside front cover is 60, and inside back cover is 40. So you
And
can
they
get a
work.
full page or two if you want, 25. But yeah, really great spots right now available. So I recommend if you're interested in advertising, get your stuff out there. Heck, you could even get like like buy a full page spot if, let's say, you're a comic creator and you want to just kind of showcase your comic, a page of it. You could buy a full page spot. We'll put like little asterisks that say advertisement and whatnot on there so people aren't confused about it being part of the story.
Yes,
But
just let everybody
you can
know
get it in
Thomas
your
Valiant is advertised in King Cryptid.
Yes, it is.
Yep. And
It's
I got
actually
I got
issue
taken in the bowl.
4.
I got a Tonic Bowls comic from an advertisement in Alterna.
So yeah,
Yep,
right
there you go.
You know,
Yeah,
so
Pete, I was really trying to scramble to be ready to advertise it in this campaign. I just wasn't ready yet, but I wanted to advertise my comic. I really wanted to flip through Blood Realm and then all of a sudden see my ad. You know, that would just be so
there'll
much
be
fun.
more opportunities.
Yeah, there'll be
future.
more opportunities. Yes, but
Yeah.
but I would think, you know, and like I said, I got Tonic Balls comics from an ad in Alterna. You know,
Yeah, there you go.
I love that guy.
The one thing I recommend though with people who are going to advertise in print, especially in our comics, is make sure you're putting out an ad that's evergreen. And what I mean by that is if your ad revolves around timeliness, like if it revolves around a sale or a crowdfunder
Oh,
or
yeah.
a coupon
Makes
code,
sense.
that kind of a thing, with no other aspect to it other than that, like it's not just that, oh, we're crowdfunding through this time period, but then also you have the main website and information of, you know, what's what. But if you're just advertising something that's timely, you're going to lose a lot of advertising dollar for that space.
That
So you want to make
makes- yeah,
sure
good
you
point, good
maximize
point.
the ad dollar. Yeah.
That's a good point. So I people were asking me questions. Is that really John Cusack in disguise? So
Where's
these rumors-
that? Where's that question?
I'm just teasing. I'm looking at you, going, "Hey, you look familiar."
That's a first. I never heard
You never
John
heard that
Cusack.
before?
No.
That's what the
I've
glasses
heard,
are for. So he's got a wig on and wearing the glasses. He's in disguise.
I've heard Johnny Depp a lot. I've heard especially Captain Jack Sparrow. I've heard I've even heard like Keanu Reeves and stuff like that too, but like okay, I'll take it. But I've never heard John Cusack.
Who do I look like? Turnabout is fair play.
I don't know. I can't think of you looking like anybody famous.
I'm unique. Yeah.
You look like that guy from John's Long Box.
That guy's a jerk. Why do you compare me to him?
I mean, yeah, you're a little better than him, I guess.
Yeah, he's a slob. Eating his breakfast on camera. Yeah, he does look like Johnny Depp. Yeah, you look like Johnny Depp playing Rasputin.
No, he says you look like Rasputin, but I'll take
Oh,
that.
I
I'll
look
take
like-
Johnny Depp playing
I'll take
Rasputin
Rasputin.
too.
It's funny. That was my original Twitter picture. Was me in a monk outfit looking like Rasputin, and it was funny because
Was it for real?
I'm talking years ago. Yeah.
No way.
My
Wow.
beard was longer, and so I put on this black shirt, made myself look like a monk, and I suppose, and I got into a political argument with somebody. Imagine that, and they
Not on Twitter. Don't say.
yeah they blocked
say
me.
it ain't so, John.
They blocked me because they were like, "Look at this Christian with this picture of Jesus." And I'm like,
Oh wow.
"It's me trying to look like Rasputin, but if I look like Jesus, I've been compared to I'll take it." So, RJ, we were talking about color theory, and then, but I
You have any more questions about fulfillment? Are you nervous about fulfilling
I'm-
your first campaign?
Yeah, I'm nervous. I've never done it before. That how can I not be nervous? I had RJ from Critical Blast on talking about fulfillment services. Thank you for bringing this up. You just refreshed my memory. Have you considered a fulfillment service, RJ?
No.
Too?
No, I mean, God bless him, and anybody that uses them, go for it. But I don't need that or want that at this time. Yeah, I haven't considered
got a
that.
full-time
Like I said,
job.
I like the aspect of it, and I know it might sound weird to people, but it's like a meditative type thing for me.
Damn straight. I just said that on Twitter. Oh, it was about a month ago. Is somebody was posting, I have to take all of my comics and put them in bag and board them, and they were saying it was like it
Oh, I
was a
friggin' love
tour.
it.
I'm
It's
thinking to
like
myself,
heaven.
I would do that all day if I could.
Absolutely. I think RJ, I think I posted on like a picture out because I just happened to be putting comics on my big table, alphabetizing them and putting them in bags. I love doing that. It was funny because I before my wife, I dated this one girl, and she, bless her heart, she was trying to get interested in all the stuff that I was interested in. So she would just come over. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sorting comics. So she would come over and just watch me. And it was funny because she was like, you do more love and care putting those comic books away than you do to me. And I was like, and of course, me being the jerk, I go, well, I'm going to be with these comics for the rest
We'll
of my
be
life.
like, darling, once I bag and board you, then you'll get that love and attention too. You might not want
I have a
it, though,
crude
but-
joke that I'm just going to let you imagine that crude joke. Yeah, but yeah, I love, I'm sure Pete and I'm sure RJ could understand, and Logan over here, he's another one. But I love going and just looking at my comics. I'll pull out a box, and do you guys do this? Do you look at an old comic from like 1985 and you remember riding on your bicycle to the 7-Eleven and can't wait to ride home, or if
Oh
you're,
yeah, like I've got a ton of comics that are in horrible condition, but I keep them and I'm never letting go of them because it's like a time capsule.
yeah,
Those are the special ones. All the other ones, nice and whatever, and I'll part ways eventually. They're here for just a short time, but those stay. Those ain't going anywhere.
no,
Yeah,
my comics.
definitely, John.
I'm sorry?
Like I was saying earlier before we got on here, my brother came by and started going through all my books, right? And he would pull them out and go, "Where'd you get this one?" And I would tell him, and he said, "Where'd you get this one?" And I had an answer for every time he asked me that question.
Yeah, for the most part, like any comic, like I'll say 1995 and earlier, like back then I had no responsibilities, carefree. You could pull out any comic. I could probably describe a couple of the panels. I just definitely tell you the plot lines. I could tell you lines of dialogue, something interesting. Some of them I could even tell you the letters that were written in the letters page, and I could always tell you where I was when I bought them.
Why 95 and later? Is it a
Because
different
after that I was
experience?
working full time, and you get more responsibility. I was done with college,
Oh, okay.
and real life set in.
I thought it was because they started to really suck at that
Well,
point.
that too.
Yep.
Because that's when I was a kid. Even I was like, oh man, what is going on? Like it's just
Yeah.
a difference. Even when I was a kid, I could tell that something happened. Like the secret sauce was gone.
Yep.
It just felt like really strange, And even now when I'm diving into the dollar bins and whatever, you could look at the paper stock, and I already know, like at the top of it, when it's not browned out, yellowed out. I don't even want to look at that.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. The exact same thing.
Yeah, there's a nice big chunk of that box I don't got to look at.
The story I like to tell is there's a store going out of business. Well, it wasn't going out of business. It was just changing from a comic book store to like a Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, come here and play kind of place.
Mm.
And they just took all their long boxes. They had picnic tables, and underneath the tables, on top of everywhere, every comic book was $1. Just get rid of them. So I'm coming from work. I'm filthy from construction, and I'm laying, and I'm sure my butt's sticking out as I'm leaning over, crawling around. And I found every issue of almost every issue of the original. Why can't you Thunder Agents? The Hollywood Thunder Agents, almost every one of them for $1. I was like, and I'm bringing them up to like all nervous, like this girl, she's like some 17-year-old girl. She's gonna like accuse me of stealing. You know what I mean? She was like $1 each. I was like, $18 for like 18 perfectly good conditioned Thunder
Wow.
Agents. They didn't even know what they were selling.
I guess that's why they started selling Pokemon and
Yeah,
stuff
that's why the
instead.
comic books went up. But you know what? Who else knows? Who else wanted them? They probably would have sat there for another 30 years.
Maybe, I don't know. It sounds, that's the conundrum, right? When you're a comic collector, you love going into a store that looks like a nightmare
Oh yeah.
because you're like, that's where the
That's a
treasure
good way to
is.
put it.
You're like, oh man, this dude's a hoarder. I'm gonna find treasure today. They don't know what the hell they have anymore. But when you're a comic creator and you're selling them, you're like, this is the worst store in the world. Because no one's going to find my book here if they even have it, if they're even aware that there's new comics still coming out that aren't from Marvel and DC. But as a comic collector, I go into a store like that and I'm like, time to move stuff and time to find the treasure, and that's always fun. But yeah, it's a whole different experience though when you're making them and selling them, and you go in there and you're like, man, I wish the store was better organized. I wish the store like they actually knew what they had and how to sell it. And that's the thing, is there's so many of these stores, they're great, but you walk in and it feels sometimes like, you guys, you're supposed to sell the stuff that's in here, right?
Right.
Like it's that's the point of this store,
Well, that whole store is an extension of their hobby and prolonging, like becoming an adult. Like there has to be that fine line of, this is a business, and this.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie, Comic Book Villains?
Oh yeah, years
Yeah.
ago, yeah.
Yeah, the one store that was a nightmare, like you
Yep.
described. But that guy knew his comic books, and then the
Yeah.
other people who just like, it's nice to own a comic book store.
You need that nice balance of
Yes,
the
that's what
people
I'm
that are
saying. You need to.
good at the organizing and know their product, and then they're able to not just be a physical store space with a bunch of shelves for the product, but they're actually able to go, okay, I know the product, I know my customers, I know that this would appeal to them, and I can make recommendations that'll work. Those comic shop owners, I mean, hell, those people within just the retail space in general are unbelievably few and far between. And that's a shame. But in the comic industry, it's really a shame, just where there is no massive 500 store chain that's carrying comics. I mean, man, what a difference that would make for the whole industry in some respect. But you don't get that scenario. You get the scenario where people are generally fans of at least pop culture in some respect. And that's why they're opening up these stores. A lot of the time, these stores were started from people's collections.
Yep.
And then they kind of grew from there. But when it comes to the product, there's so much stuff out now. The stores only have so much space. And then I feel like it's just a slippery slope of like, I'll leave that box on top of that display for just today. And then before you know it, a year goes by, and then everything's on top of everything. You can't get into the stuff behind it. You don't know what you have anymore. Oh,
I'm looking around me, and that's what you're describing.
A comic book store opened up around the block from me. I could walk to it. It's that close. But the guy is so unorganized. But the guy is friendly. He's, he'll talk to you. He's the opposite of the stereotypical comic book store. So I really like the guy. But he just puts stuff on top of the back issue bins, and I could tell he has all because I looked through it, and then like, okay, it's getting late, I gotta leave, and then I'm gonna come back in a couple of days. I'm gonna look. I come back, there's boxes on it, and I'm like, you're just killing me. I want to look through these boxes, and now that store's closed. I never got to look through those boxes. Who knows,
Yeah, that's the thing is when that store, if they have a going out of business sale, you got to run down there because you're going to discover some hidden gem or multiple hidden gems that just they had no idea about. I look at a lot of that stuff sometimes. There's a store by me that's like that in particular, and I love them because they got a 50-cent selection. But it's maybe a third of their store is their 50-cent collection, and it's completely like there's so many long boxes, and there's long boxes on the long boxes, and they're underneath the long boxes, and there's long boxes standing up, and there's all in front of them, and you got to move like 2 layers of boxes to get to the boxes, and it's worth it sometime to put in that elbow grease and get a workout in there for the day too. But it's like I always I leave sometime with like that bittersweet feeling of like, wow, they got to have at least $1 million worth of 50-cent back issues that aren't even close to 50 cents. And meanwhile, I wonder like how much longer does this store have, because they don't know what they have. So it's very strange. It's a weird it's a weird industry aside from a lot of the other weirdness that's been going on in the past
Yes.
10 or so years. It's not conducive to business. It's and it hit me really hard like a ton of bricks 3 years ago when the pandemic hit and we were involved with Diamond at that point in time. And I'm looking at everything and I'm like, we're doing everything that on paper is right. Like you're supposed to do this, that, and the other thing, and then you'll continue to grow. And I'm like, why are we constantly on the decline in this business, in this industry? When, we'll even get emails from stores that are like, people loved this issue. This number one, they came in, they bought all 40. So now we're going to make sure that, we order 15 of number two. And I'm like, did I just read that right? You sold out of 40 on day one. You have people coming in that missed out. And now you're going to order like dramatically less of issue two on top of not ordering any of number one for the people that are clamoring for it. I'm like, this isn't a way to do business. Every single thing is like 99% of the stuff you put out on the direct market, that first issue, you'll never see the numbers as high as that first issue. And if you can't continue to grow in a business space, the only place you're going is down. It's death. So for the fact that the comic industry is operating in that respect, kind of hinging upon retail to do this. And when I've tried to talk to a lot of retailers over the years, they're like, well, you got to send people to our store. And I'm like, it's not 1985. If I'm going to work hard to send people to your store and lose 62% for the privilege, I'm going to send them to my own store and keep 62%. So, and you can't also send customers to a store that doesn't have the product.
Right.
Because then when they go there, and comic shops for some people are far away. I can't imagine taking like an hour trip, let's say, because, you're hoping that this comic shop has this book. And then you get there, and I've had a lot of customers say this over the years. You get to the shop, and then they don't have it, and then the customer wants to request it, and the store doesn't want to order it. So it turns into, how am I supposed to grow business for either of us? And that's a thing that's going on throughout the entire industry, and that's been going on for a long time.
I growing up, I went through phases. I wanted to write comics. I wanted to open up a comic book store, things like that. And it's funny that everything that you're saying is stuff that I thought about, like, because at one point in New York, there was a comic book store every couple of blocks, and now we're down to like absolutely nothing. And I was just thinking, what would I do that would make my comic book store be successful? And I'm like, number one, just be friendly. Number two,
that's like a good rule of thumb for life.
Right. Be friendly, well lit, but you'd be surprised, because I do think the type of people that want to make comic book, there's two types. And as mean as it says, they're either just comic book fans that didn't want to grow up, so they opened up a store thinking, oh, I get free comics for the rest of my life. And those are the nightmare comic stores that you just talked about. Or the even worse are the people that are like, comic books are a fortune. I'm going to bag and board them, and and then like a little kid will come in and they'll just like, that comic book's $400. Kid, what I mean?
Everything's like priced 10 times higher than it should be.
Yeah. And they're buying 200 X-Men comics to get that collectible one, and then putting that for $1,000 like immediately. It never even hit the stand, And I'm like, you can't do either one of those. You have to, just be like a friendly store, like the Little Rascals would come in, hey, you know what I mean, and be happy. It's clean. It's there was a store in Albuquerque that I loved because the guy wasn't a comic book fan. It was just product to him, and he got, if somebody wanted something, he didn't like, that's the worst comic book in the world. I can't believe you. He's like, okay, you want that? I will get that for you. I'm sorry I don't have it for you. I get comics every Wednesday. If you come back next Wednesday, it'll be in the bag over here. You know what I mean? And then he would give something that didn't sell. I'm sorry I didn't. He was excellent, and he used to tell me, I don't read comics. This might as well be bubblegum. This might as well be hot dogs. And he was the best comic book store I've ever been to. He would read them once in a while because you got to talk to your customers and everything like that.
Yeah.
He became a comic book fan, but he just took over a comic book shop from some old timer who didn't want it anymore. And, I loved going there.
Yeah. Yeah, the balance of running the business in that respect. It's lost on not just a lot of the retailers in this space, and there's a lot that are good, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's a tremendous amount that, man, it's horrible. But it's like that a lot too, just even with the creators as well, which is kind of frustrating. But in terms of operating in the business sense of it, it's it's incredibly frustrating knowing that your livelihood depends upon people who they can barely maintain their own livelihood, and there's a trickle down that happens. So then everybody within that industry, I mean, if we're really brutally honest about it within comics, which is shocking that most people aren't, because there's a lot of things that revolve around this problem. But I'd say probably 80 to 85% of the comics that get distributed, there's no way on earth they're even making their money back. I mean, there were
well,
comics at Alterna that when towards that last
comics are
year
booming, according
that I
right.
was like, this is awful. Like some of these books aren't selling even 500 copies through distribution. It was horrible. And again, if you're selling a book even at like $5 a pop through distribution, let's say you sell 500 copies, so that's $2,500 in product, but then distribution is going to take 62 to 65%. So you're only really making like a third of that.
Well, how many Image comics did you see? They just disappeared. I was like, I like this, and then like 6 months later, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't issue number 6? And then you find some interview with the guy's like, I had to stop. It was every issue was costing me money, and these were like, I don't want to mention names because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but these were like real legit comic book personalities that you heard of, and I'm like, so, and this is Image Comics doing this. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Diamond Comics. I always thought there was something shady going on with them, to be honest.
I mean, it's unfortunate that it's strange in the respect that it is, but I would love for a lot of shops to do this, and there are some that do it, and it's great. But if shops were more prone to being able to have like a section for local creators, if they were more organized in terms of like genre, so that new and old customers could discover things easily.
Yeah,
Oh, I like
I
horror,
agree.
I like
These are
fantasy,
good
I
ideas.
like this, I like, we're a sort by genre society at this point in time. If you don't know what to watch in a certain streaming service or whatever it may be, you go and you sort by genre. So if you can sort imagine the grocery store not being sorted by genre. Imagine the library not being sorted by genre. Everything is sorted in some capacity by
Also,
genre.
imagine going to the library and it's only romance novels.
Yeah, if it's just imagine the grocery store if it was just here's the new product wall, here's what we got in this week, and then everything else you
Yeah.
you figure it
Good luck.
out.
Good luck, buddy.
Like I guess we have that. And then like crates are on top of crates, behind crates, in front of product, in front. Nothing is organized. Nothing is, you can't find anything to save your life unless you plan on digging around like crazy.
Like the George Carlin. Could be meat, could be cake. I don't know. I'll buy it.
Yeah. And unfortunately that's what it's like with a lot of the shops. But
Yep.
there are some shops that have run their stuff. I've seen them do a great job at it by doing that kind of thing, sorting by genre, having local creator sections, having signings and events,
Local
and then
creator
treating
section's a
them.
really good idea.
Yeah,
That's
and then treating them like signings and events. Like actually like, and it's as stupid as getting even just a couple helium balloons. Just to make it feel special. Put a balloon on your door and then put a balloon by the table that the person is sitting at and be like, hey, we've got a signing going on today for everybody coming in. And be
Yeah.
like, if you don't know who they are, check them out. They got a great looking book. I've done so many signings over the years that I don't want to do anymore in comic shops because they treat you like you're the biggest burden to step a foot within the shop. And it's so strange because it's a tremendous business opportunity for them as well. But they don't want to promote it as such. They don't want to get the word out there. Even direct mail campaigns. How many people have ever received a direct mail campaign for a comic shop in terms of here's a coupon to save 10% or something on your order if you come in, or we're having a sale. Here's a direct mail campaign for the local shop. Those aren't that expensive to run. But most shops don't do stuff like that.
I was always thinking like, if I was to have a comic book store, like one thing, like this was in the 90s, so I don't know, but like have a message board, like John's Long Box, everybody joins. Hey, this is the message board, just sign it, and then like talk. What did you read this week? What did you like? Blah 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 blah. And it's for business. You don't want people cursing and yelling. You know what I mean? And then like, oh, Iron Man's coming out. This is gonna be a Marvel movie. Have the store buy 50 tickets, and then like everybody, will have raffles. You buy 10 comics, you get a ticket, and we all go to the movies together. Make events, make a reason for people to be loyal to your comic book store.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this at all, because it was kind of a nationwide thing, I guess. But at the time, as a kid, it just was Spider-Man coming to town. And Spider-Man was doing a signing at Caldor. And I was like 5 years old. And I had Spider-Man sign like 2 Spider-Man records and a Spider-Man comic that they were giving away at, I think it was like Spider-Man like 330, 331, 332, something like that. It was one of those Eric Larson Venom cover things. And Spider-Man he was in his outfit. It was a really good looking Spider-Man outfit. And he was doing Spider-Man poses and whatnot with everybody that came to take pictures and get signings and whatnot, and acting like Spider-Man, And the line was around the store to meet a dude.
They would love that.
Yeah, to meet Spider-Man.
Yeah.
To meet a dude dressed up like Spider-Man.
And the funny thing is that dude was probably like Juilliard Academy trained and stuff like that. Like, oh,
yeah,
I'm gonna be doing a Eugene O'Neill play next week. Oh, ta-da!
Yeah, and there's a picture of me. It's like a Polaroid picture because they were taking him that day, where they just here's a Polaroid and little kid with Spider-Man, and then like he's doing like a little Spider-Man pose thing on my and then I got like this little 5-year-old picture with me and Spider-Man holding my comic and my records.
Yeah.
And yeah, Caldor, right? The time was. And that was a memory that I'll cherish my whole life. The day I met Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But instead of being at Caldor, that could be at a comic shop. You could, if you're a comic shop, you can have these events, even not just creators, but there's so many people doing amazing type cosplay stuff now. You could have this kind of like, meet whoever, whatever character it may be. Even get that person. Like if you get a creator that's working on one of those type of books, you can get someone to, give them $50 for the day, and they hang out, and they're, there and meeting everybody too, and they're in costume and whatever. Some of the magic, some of the fun and the wonder. Bring it back to the stores, to the comics, to all of that. So much of that is missing. It's a very cynical time in terms of that stuff. It's sad.
RJ, Pete, you'll get a kick out of this. When I was a part owner of a pizzeria, and we had this delivery guy who was a weightlifter. This kid was just ripped. He was always like, I weighed the exact same thing as Arnold Schwarzenegger when he did whatever movie. And so the owner, the main owner, Tom, he just got the idea. I'm going to rent a Batman costume. So he's like, you're not driving today. He goes, whatever you make in tips, I'll give it to you. And you're just going to walk around dressed as Batman in front of the store. And kids were coming to the store to meet Batman, get pizza with Batman. It was the funny. And he at first he was like, I'm not doing it. And by the end of the day, he loved it. He got girls' phone numbers. This guy come on over tonight. Bring the utility belt. You got it.
Yeah.
It was a blast. Pizza with Batman. Good thing Marvel. Would DC even be mad?
I don't know. I don't think so.
It was, but it was a good costume. It was awesome. And then he got into his little beat up duster and drove away. And some of the kids were like, "That wasn't Batman."
Yeah. It's funny because it's like that's the community aspect of these sort of things. And if you don't endear yourself to the community as an independent store or as an independent creator, it's the same type of thing. If you don't endear yourself to the community in which you're in, don't be surprised then when they don't show up for you. So it's the same kind of thing that occurs, and it's so sad because a lot of the stores that I've talked to over the years, they essentially want product that sells itself. Now I get that. I understand. But there is a very, very bad slippery slope for the product that sells itself when you're a retailer. Because if you got to be careful what you wish for. Because when you have product that then sells itself and you've got a store, sooner or later that vendor is going to go, what do I need you for? This product sells itself. I'm giving you customers. You're not giving me customers. You're not doing the outreach to your community to grow my products. You're essentially taking my customers and making money off of me. And that is when it becomes a strange thing. And in comics, it's always like we got to figure out a way to make the comic shops money. No, everyone has to figure out a way to
Yep.
make money for themselves. And the comic shops can do a tremendous amount as well. They don't have to sit there and wait for a product or a book that sells itself. There's ways to market that stuff when you have a store. There's ways to display it. There's ways to organize it. There's ways to even highlight it. There's a lot of stores that don't even do like an employee pick kind of a thing, which always confuses the hell out of me, because why wouldn't you do that? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to make a recommendation of like,
Well,
hey,
that's
here's
how
what we're
I got
reading in the
into Love and
store?
Rockets. The store owner recommended Love and Rockets to me. I never would have picked that up in a million years.
Yeah. Like that's, to me, that's the fun too of having a store, is you're able to do that. Or even things too, like a customer recommendation wall based on here's what customers have in their pull boxes. Check out what people tend to put in their pull boxes and tend to order. Check out the list of what it is. You don't have to be a big store to have a flyer, once a week or once a month about what's coming out or what a sale might be at the shop or this and that.
These
There's
days,
so
you
many
can just do it
things.
online. Just send out
Yeah, have a
email.
newsletter. Totally.
Oh, Brian, we got to start all over again. Hey, how you doing? I'm John. I can't pronounce my words. This is Pete. That's what you saw at the beginning of the video. We don't have to go through that.
Well, since we had a break here, I actually have to bail because I have a stream on my channel that's about
Yep.
to start. Thank you
Ooh.
very much for having me, John. And
We'll
nice to
finish
meet
this
you
up anyway.
finally,
Night-
face
night-
to face, as it were.
Good
Peter.
chatting with you, RJ.
All
Talk
right,
to you
thank
soon.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You're going to be on RJ's channel this Friday, right?
Actually, no.
Oh,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
be
he'll be
Pete's
on
channel.
mine
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I got it backwards.
On-
See, I told you I can't talk.
All right.
on a
I'll see you.
Wednesday coming up. All right, see you, RJ.
All right. Well, I got to get to bed anyway, so we'll close up. But I'm fascinated what you said. What you said about all of these stores, and to me, it's a no-brainer. I was thinking of this kind of stuff when I didn't have a store. I worked at a couple of comic book stores. One of the guys was like real friendly and nice and everything, too nice to the point like he couldn't overcharge for like a hot item. He just felt like it says 75 cents on the cover. I'm selling it for 75 cents. I understand that, which I do respect. But
Yeah.
then I had guys that were like, oh, the Nom. Remember when the Nom came out? We had like lines around the block. The Nom didn't even make it to the shelf. It was bagged and boarded in like $5, like right out of the diamond boxes. How what's the word for that? Conniving or wrong?
Kinda, yeah, it's a little predatory.
Predatory. That's a good word.
But yeah, that's the thing. We even in the industry, we've managed to frame all of the woes upon the customer, right? The collector bubble
Gouging.
burst. The collector bubble burst. Oh, it's too bad. Oh, what the collector bubble burst means from the 90s is people wised up and they went, "Wait, this is all crap. Why am I going to buy cases of crap?" And that's all that was.
What a coincidence! The collector bubble
it-
burst just as the comics were really bad.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't, and it wasn't their fault. It wasn't the customer's fault. It was the publisher gimmicks. It was the predatory practices of going, hey, we could put out whatever we want. Slap a collector item issue, tagline on this thing, and it'll sell a case.
And how long ago was that? Was that 1995?
That was about 30 or so years ago.
And you think they'd learn? Because I'm seeing the same exact thing going on right
Same
now.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like history, man. Every generation seems to all of a sudden forget what the previous one went through and thinks that they could do it better, and they just did it wrong. Well, we'll do it better. Okay, but they're always trying to do better what went wrong instead of do better what went right. Now, if we do better what went right, we'd be in paradise at this point in time. But it's always like, the thing they did wrong, we'll do it right this time.
Yeah,
No.
I'm thinking of that Calvin and Hobbes when somebody, I forget who it was, but they're like, I want to lose weight. I want to do the Atkins diet. I want to do this diet. And Calvin just goes, well, why don't you just eat less and exercise? Oh, it was Bloom County. Just eat less and exercise. The guy goes, no. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, do this. And they just eat less and exercise. You're so right. You want to sell better comics, Marvel and DC? Make better comics.
Stick to the fundamentals. Yeah. If your fundamentals are sound and things are going wrong, then you got to think outside the box.
Right.
But if your fundamentals have gone askew, it's like, well, you got to get back to basics and then build up from there. Your foundation is horrible. If it's crumbling, you can't continue to build upon a crappy foundation.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Well, I just to give a shout out, I walked into Fourth World Comics a couple of years ago over in Smithtown, Long Island. I'm sure you know the store, and I found a comic called what was it? Why Mother Russia was that? Yeah, Mother Russia.
Oh,
by
okay,
Walter.
yeah.
And I was like, what is this? It's $1.50, right there in the front, prominently displayed right next to everything else. And I'm looking at it and I was confused. I'm like, how is this comic $1.50? This, everything else is whatever price it is. I'm like, did I miss this? Alterna. So I went up to the guy who owned the store, whose name I can't remember. And he's like, yeah, there's Alterna Comics. It's a new company, and he even said it's on newsprint, And I was like, oh, all right. And I bought all your comics. And I've been a fan ever since. That was a store that does it right, and what a coincidence! It's one of the only stores in still existence.
Now, can you remember accurately? Did he tell you that we were a new company at that point in time?
Oh, I don't remember if he said you were a new company or not.
Okay.
But
only because it'd be funny to me if we were, just because 3 years before that was released, we had a New York Times bestseller, and I'm like, see, those things don't matter.
Well, you're talking to a guy who can't remember yesterday, but I remember. I remember bringing it up, and he said this is Alterna Comics. It's on newsprint with the smart. But I don't remember if he said it's a new company or not. I'm thinking it's a new company because I didn't know any better. I was the customer.
There's a lot of when we put that's the thing. When we came out with the newsprint comics in 2017, there were a lot of stores that did think we were a new company.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, we've been around for a while. We did a lot of things at that point in time too. So it just shows the difference between the single issue market and the graphic novel market. And the graphic novel market's being touted for back then, and has been touted now as that this is the true future of comics. The single issues are obsolete. They're outdated. People don't want them and this and that. But no, they outsell graphic novels within the direct market comic space by a whole bushel full. So that's what matters to a lot of comic readers is a single issue. The graphic novels are great, but when it comes to the direct market,
I love my floppy comics. I think I have less than 10 graphic. Well, not I have less than 10 trade paperbacks. I have plenty of graphic novels, like stuff that came out original as a graphic novel.
Yeah. And that's great for like the crowdfunding market and like the bookstore market, but like the direct market for comic shops, man, it's single issues are king.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish they would come back to the newsstand. Just because
they could do it if the big two committed to like their top 10 titles, go to the newsstand, and that's all it would take, just the top 10. You don't got to do the whole line. It would be different, and it would pave the way.
Batman, Spider-Man, Superman,
yeah,
X-Men, and Archie, and you get Archie in there too.
Gotta get back to basics, though.
Yep,
that's the thing. Gotta get back to single issues, doing episodic, ongoing storytelling. None of this event-driven crap. None of this stuff that the person's going to be lost. None of this stuff that's agenda-driven. None of this stuff that feels like you're getting beat over the head with a regurgitated form of the nightly news with tights on. None of that. Fun, solid storytelling. But that combined with getting back to the newsstand market and things like that, the big two, if they did that, it would revolutionize things again.
And that's what I'm going to be doing with my comic.
That's a big ask.
It's going to be not one and done, episodic. It'll build on each other, but each issue will be a complete story because
good, yeah.
Because you deserve it. You know what I mean? You want a satisfying comic,
As a storyteller too, man, you're gonna have so much more fun that way.
Yeah.
Because instead of dragging out a story over 4 issues or more, or whatever it may be, you get to play fast and loose with the world building and the character building, and it's going to be just the pacing is going to have to be there. You're going to have more characters introduced. You're going to have all these different things. It's like with King Cryptid. By the time that issues 5 to 9 come out, that's 9 issues of new characters, new settings, new situations,
9 stories.
And you're going to learn all these different things because it's 9 stories.
Yeah.
As opposed to, if 1 to 4 was a story arc, let's say 1 to 4 was just issue 1, but over 4 issues. Well, then that means you never met the Granite Beast, you never meet Brug the Swamp Monster, you never had that flashback issue with the kids. So you just literally only meet the Behemoth and Victor Lugo. And I could have done that. That would have been pretty easy to just beef up issue 1 and put a lot of bloat in there.
Yeah,
But
I remember when you sent me
why?
over the scripts beforehand. King Cryptid and Behemoth sat in the Starbucks for a couple of issues drinking coffee.
Yeah, that decompressed storytelling. That's just like, oh man, it's torture.
Yeah.
But getting back to that kind of
Don't
concentrated
bend it for your
effort.
comics.
Yeah. The concentrated effort of episodic storytelling is
Yeah.
it's made
It-
comics
it-
special.
To me, it's like having a sharp knife as opposed to a dull knife. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna do a one and done story, I did this. I originally was going to make issue number 2 my issue number 1 of Heroic Tale, and then I realized this is I'm still going to do issue number 2, but it's not a good introduction. It's so I inverted the order, and I think I made the right choice. It's but I had to think about that because now I'm putting my money behind it. This is me. If it fails, it's on me, and if it succeeds, it's on Renzo. So, but I really had to sit home and go over the script and sharpen it up and I want everybody to have a satisfying. Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the first things I noticed about King Cryptid. It's not a long drawn out, agonizing story over 6 issues
Yeah.
that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee would have told, in the one issue.
If anything, I could put a number 1 on every single issue and it would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And the only reason I don't is because it just denotes this is the story order
Well,
in which to follow the continuity, and
Right,
that
I mean,
the
yeah.
number is more about like what it used to represent in terms of like, well, if we get it to issue 85, that's the 85th story with King
Yeah.
Cryptid is basically all that means. It doesn't mean that 1 to 84, if you didn't read them, hey, tough luck. This
How bad
85,
did
you're going to be lost.
How bad does it kill you that Marvel and DC just started over with number 1s?
It's
Oh
the
my god!
stupidest move they
just-
could have ever done.
Yeah, and
They
then
viewed their
compound-
strength as a weakness, and that is death.
and then to compound it, they tried to do back legacy numbers, so it made it even worse. Like you're going to tell me that this is issue 623, but there really wasn't an issue 545. Oh my god, you're killing me! You're killing me! It's just if I was going to say if I ever start over, I'm not starting over number 1. Heroic Tales is going till the wheels fall
Yeah,
off.
because that was
Yeah.
basically just like, yeah, all you guys that were with us this whole time, well,
Yeah, we,
c'est la vie, we're gonna be going a different direction, and you do whatever you want to do. We'll do what we want to do. If you want to join us, cool. If not, you're not really that renumbering on that level of ignoring the history that has been built up. To me, that's one of those things that comes across as it's a subliminal middle finger to everyone who stood beside you the whole time, because you're basically saying your time is done. We
Right.
want someone else here now.
and also it just shows that you don't know your audience, because let's face it, Pete, I mean, you had a couple of hours worth of conversation over the past couple of years. We're kind of obsessive compulsive when it comes to our comic books. You know what I mean? We just talked about bagging and boarding and putting them in order and putting them in boxes. That's not normal behavior. It's weird, obsessive, and that's what a
perfectly
comic
normal.
book fan. What's that?
It's
normal.
perfectly normal.
It's perfectly normal. Yes. Yeah. But you know what I mean? And then to change that numbering for it's almost physically jarring. It's
Well, yeah, it was like, to me, and I'm sorry, I'll let you go soon, but to me
Yeah.
is the same thing that when they got rid of like corner boxes.
oh,
I was like, that's it. That it was really like when I saw that it was an issue that came in, and I'm like, where's the corner box? The corner box on this? Where's the number? Where's the logo? Where's the little dudes in the corner? What's
Yep.
going on? Like my whole world was like shattered and crumbling before my very eyes, and I was like, maybe it's just this one. Maybe it's just this one issue. In the next one, it'll be okay. And then I'm like, wow, this is what they're doing now. There's no corner box. So the graphic design, which I didn't know at the time to put into words, but the graphic design was taking a nosedive, and they were going, that stuff that doesn't matter anymore. And I didn't know, but the biggest reason was because of the fact that the pre-ordering system was largely not dependent anymore about designing these things effectively to catch the eye of the customer that would come by and walk across a newsstand. It was just to sell the thing. It was going to go to the comic shop, and that was it. It didn't matter how you designed the comic anymore.
Um,
You didn't need to have this attention-grabbing cover, and great layout and great graphic design and everything to the nines. Who cared? The comic shop was pre-ordering this. So it wasn't about catering to the reader and the customer, especially the
that's a
casual
good point.
customer. It was about, it's going to the shop already. Who cares?
That's a good point. I didn't think of it that way, but you're probably right. Yeah. I tell you this, Heroic Tales is going to have a corner box, ladies and gentlemen.
Very nice.
It's got to have a corner box, and I want to put the bar across the top with, long box comics, because that's what I want to do. Because that's the way it should be, if you ask me. That's the way comic books are supposed to be, ladies and gentlemen. Get off my lawn. But I got to go. Speaking of getting off my lawn, I'm going to go finish my dinner, and I got to go to bed because 4:30 comes early. Thanks a lot, Pete. I enjoyed your RJ's already doing his.
Thank you, man.
Oh yeah, anytime. I enjoy our talks. Let's put this up one more time. Oh, of course, everything changes. Let's put this up. Pete's got an active campaign right now. Tell us what's in the campaign.
So in the campaign, we got Blood Realm number 14, we got Horace H. Hoover number 3 of 5, Unit 44-9, and Unit 44-10. And Unit 44 is a great episodic ongoing series, follows the adventures of 2 bumbling Area 51 agents as they have various cases, come across monsters, creatures, all kinds of weird stuff. Horace H. Hoover is a really nice pulp adventure, kind of got like a sci-fi fantasy twist to it. Really just beautiful art by Fabrizio Aiello, a lot of fun. And that is on the campaign as well. And then also Blood Realm is probably one of the most beloved Alterna titles at this point, especially. Really intense, dark fantasy, nightmarish hellscapes, freaky creatures, really deep storytelling. Yeah, it's like nightmare fuel in the best kind of way. I really recommend checking out the campaign. You get the 4 new comics for just $9. And we also have a ton of stuff on the site and a ton of stuff also on the Indiegogo. We're doing it on the campaign for both alternacomics.com on that site and also on Indiegogo. And on Indiegogo for the back issues and add-ons and whatnot, we got a tremendous amount on there. So check it out. The flat rate shipping will save you a lot of money. Wherever you back, it's just going to be $6 for your shipping in the U.S., no matter how much you get. $25 for Canada, no matter how much you get. And $40 for everywhere else. Again, no matter how much you get. And I mean that. You can order 100 or 200 items. If you're in the UK, it's just going to cost you $40 in shipping. We're not going to charge you any more than that. Same thing with Canada, same thing with US in terms of that. Flat rate. So there's no excuse to not pick up Alterna. If you guys want to have a great time with comic books, they're really fun. They're really affordable. Check them out.
Yep. I'm a unabashed fanboy of Alterna Comics. I think I have everything that you put out in floppies. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That means you might have stuff that I don't have anymore.
Oh, maybe. I had to go look because I went obsessively through all your sales and everything, and I had to get a few things on eBay. Just
very nice, man.
Because I'm a freak. I gotta have it all. But thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for everybody in the chat. I appreciate it. A lot of people watching. This is great, and I'll be on the Man Cave tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow 6 to 8 on Justin Belmont's channel. And where are you going to be next, Pete?
Let me see. I think what am I doing? I'm gonna have a show on my channel tomorrow, just be a solo show, and then on Friday I'll have Justin Sweet on. We'll be talking about comic distribution because he's doing his own little venture.
Hey, Kelsey Shannon's here. Did you finish reading Warlock, Shannon? Kelsey, we got to talk about that. But good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, that's who I look like when we talk about who do we look like. I look like Kelsey.
You look like Kelsey Shannon.
Bye-bye, everybody.